Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Now NHL, local experts weighing in on the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. We've got our Locked On NHL hosts here recapping everything for you from Thursday, but we're starting off with the Flames and the Stars in last night's biggest game.
The biggest game.
A win for Calgary over Dallas has secured them the top spot in the Pacific Division. Locked On Flames breaks down how this team is getting hot at just the right time.
Hello, everyone. It's Jess Belmoster from Locked On Flames, and the Calgary Flames have officially clinched the number one spot in the Pacific Division, as well as Matthew Tkachuk tallying his 100th point of the season, as well as his 40th goal of the season. Quite the night against the Dallas Stars, and just kind of, it's smooth sailing from here. The division is no longer up for grabs, and the Flames have completely overachieved this season, and not much you can ask for more from this team. And, maybe they can stop taking too many men on the ice penalties. I think that's something we need to work on. Go back to the fundamentals of counting. But just like that, this regular season is almost over, and the Flames will not be hitting the golf course early like many of us intended or expected. So tune in to tomorrow's episode of Locked on Flames for more.
The Stars struggled on their road trip, and it's not a good time to go winless when you're in the middle of a wild card race. Locked On Stars has more about the loss and the playoff implications.
The Dallas Stars desperately needed a win in Calgary on Thursday night, but they come out and give us the worst possible results to close out this road trip, losing 4-2 to the Calgary Flames, and they have now lost 3 in a row. Hey, everybody, Dane Lewis here with the Locked On Stars podcast, coming to you late Thursday night after the Stars' most recent defeat, 4-2 at the hands of Matthew Tkachuk and the Calgary Flames. Tkachuk now 100 points on the season. He gets in his 40th goal on the year, and it was just a big night all around for the Flames. This was probably the best game from the Stars on this road trip, but still not enough to get past one of the better teams in the entire NHL in Calgary. And now the Stars are heading home from this road trip 0-3 with 0 points, with teams like Vegas and Vancouver right on their heels, and still trailing Nashville for that first wild card spot. And things are not looking good right now, but the good news for this Dallas team is they now head back home for 4 final games, 3 of which are against teams that have been out of the playoff conversation for a while now, in Seattle, Arizona, and Anaheim. And then, of course, they will have a pretty big midweek matchup with the Vegas Golden Knights that could very well determine who makes it into the postseason and who will be sitting and watching at home. It's going to be an insane final week for the Stars, and the pressure is heating up. I mean, this is the time that the Stars have to step up. They needed to step up on this road trip, but they just showed an inability to do so, despite the efforts of some of the guys on the top line. Jason Robertson gets his 38th goal in this Thursday night till in Calgary, and Frederick Karlstrom, a rookie making his NHL debut, got a point. Luke Glendening scores a goal, and Karlstrom gets the assist. So good for him. Maybe we will continue to see him play for the rest of the season. Maybe this was a one-and-done deal. We'll have to monitor that situation closely, but we will be talking about this Thursday night matchup against the Flames and the implications it poses for the Stars going forward on Friday's episode of Locked on Stars, and I will see you there.
The Florida Panthers continue to roll, clinching the number 1 seed in the East and taking down Detroit in the process. Locked On Red Wings talks over how their team ran into a freight train that is the Panthers.
The Red Wings are on the road tonight, played Florida Panthers the 4th and final time, and it was, Scotty, it was pretty much like every other time they've played the Florida Panthers. They are pretty much the best team in the league. They won this one 5-2. What'd you see out of this game, man?
Well, first off, what's that, 12 straight for the Panthers? 12
Yeah, they're
straight
insane.
wins, I think, 11, 12 straight. Crazy run they're on. It was the same we've seen all year from this series down to the broadcast, which apparently they only like this matchup on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
It was, I was actually somewhat impressed with some of the performances. Like I never really at any point expected to win this game, and I thought that some individuals really stood out. Burt had a really good game. Veleno, I thought looked really good. That whole top line has looked pretty solid with Veleno on it, which is really, I think, saying something about him and his season. And the fact that Ned has a chance to end the season with a 900 save percentage or better with this defense is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, Scotty, you and I are going to break the whole thing down today on Locked On Red Wings.
The Sabres beat the Devils by 3 goals thanks to a poor effort from New Jersey. Locked On Devils goes through the list of mistakes that led to the loss.
What's up? This is Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils, and here is my post-game reaction. So, the New Jersey Devils fell to the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 5-2. There were two key main factors that contributed to tonight's loss for the Devils. One was their power play. Their power play has been atrocious the past couple weeks. They are like 0 for 30 in their more recent power play opportunities. In tonight's game, they gave up 2 shorthanded goals in the same power play opportunity. That is pathetic. That cannot happen. Andrew Hammond took a couple steps backwards this game after playing lights out against Vegas. New Jersey, they gave themselves an opportunity to try to claw back into the game. Unfortunately, they gave up 2 unanswered goals late to the Buffalo Sabres once again, so that attributed to their 5-2 loss. Overall, coming back home after a long West Coast road trip, and the Devils just forgot to play hockey this time around. It was a very pathetic outing from them. Special teams was atrocious once again, and in terms of their goaltending situation, we sent Nico Dawes back down to Utica because we thought Andrew Hammond is now ready to step up into a much bigger role until Mackenzie Blackwood is able to make his return to the Devils lineup. So hopefully Andrew Hammond is able to turn around because there's no official word as to when Mackenzie Blackwood will be back. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later because once again, the goaltending situation seems to have taken a couple steps backwards in this matchup for the Devils.
Coming up, the Penguins stopped more than 50 Bruins shots on goal. This is Locked On Now NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Now is brought to you by Bet Online, the #1 source for all of your online sports gambling needs. Baseball is back. You want to get on the action. And of course, the NBA playoffs are underway at this point. So you definitely want to check that out, especially with injuries affecting some of the numbers there as well. Just head over to betonline.net. Welcome back to Locked On Now NHL. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Now we're going to continue our look around the league in hockey.
Let's go around the league.
The Bruins generated a ton of offense against the Penguins, but could not find the back of the net. Locked On Bruins breaks down the perplexing loss for Boston.
Despite firing 50 shots on goal against the Pittsburgh Penguins here on Thursday night, the Boston Bruins were shut out 4-0 by Casey DeSmith. This is Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Boston Bruins, and the Bruins had an opportunity to put some room between themselves and the second wildcard team in the Washington Capitals, as well as make up ground in the Atlantic Division, but they failed to do so, losing by a score of 4-0 here against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Reinforcements are hopefully on the way. Linus Ullmark expected to play sometime this weekend after Jeremy Swayman has been carrying the load, and Hampus Lindholm and David Pastrnak could be back soon as well. They desperately need both of those players on the ice, skating regularly for the Boston Bruins, as goals have been hard to come by, especially tonight. Again, the Bruins losing 4-0. Catch all the latest on the Black and Gold on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast.
The two New York teams battled it out once again with the playoffs approaching. Locked On Rangers recaps the win, while Locked On Islanders briefs us on the losing side.
Hey, what is going on, hockey fans? It's John Check with Locked On New York Rangers. The Rangers are playing their best hockey of the season, and I do not say that lightly at all. They just went in, took care of business against the New York Islanders, posting a 6-3 victory. Alex Georgiev with his 7th consecutive win. Shout out to him for really hanging tough through a really, really difficult stretch earlier this season. But I can't go a second longer without talking about Andrew Kopp. I mean, this guy has just been phenomenal since the Rangers acquired him at the trade deadline. To me, the Rangers are the winners of the trade deadline. I know there can be multiple winners around the league, teams that make good moves and improve their team, improve their chances of winning a Stanley Cup. I have a really hard time believing that any team improved their team and benefited as much from the moves made at the trade deadline as the New York Rangers did. And Andrew Kopp with a natural hat trick in the first period. Just absolutely wild. This guy's been absolutely on fire, maybe playing the best hockey of his career since coming over to the New York Rangers. You've got Artemi Panarin with 4 assists. You've got Adam Fox with 3 assists. So obviously nice to see the superstar players playing like superstars heading toward the playoffs here. and just a ton of fun to watch this team right now. Just absolutely firing on all cylinders. We'll be talking about it on the next episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Do not miss it.
Islanders fall to the Rangers 6-3 at the UBS Arena. Realistically, for this Islanders team, if you're going to have that many defensive breakdowns and make that many mistakes in your own zone, you're not going to win. And the Islanders fell behind quickly 3-0 in the first period. And so many times, defensemen didn't pick up players in front. People on the Rangers were able to skate down through the neutral zone and into the Islanders zone unimpeded with speed, and that created quality scoring plays. Yes, the Islanders gave up 6 goals, but you really can't blame Semyon Varlamov. There weren't too many soft ones in this bunch. His defense just let him down, and for a defense-first team like the Islanders, if you're giving up 6 goals, the odds are you're not winning the hockey game. Hopefully they can do better over the weekend. For more, listen to the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get podcasts.
A lopsided win for Tampa and another milestone for Steven Stamkos. Locked On Lightning breaks it all down post-game.
Well, if there was any doubt that the Lightning were still trying to find their way, well, guess what? Tonight, the Lightning went out and proved that they are indeed ready for the playoffs as they faced off against their future potential, most likely playoff foe in the Toronto Maple Leafs, winning in stellar fashion, season high, 8 goals on the season, goals coming from Alex Killorn, Ross Colton, Andre Palat, the list goes on. But the big story of the night was Steven Stamkos passing Marty St. Louis for all-time points in franchise history. Congrats to Stamkos on an incredible career thus far, and it won't certainly be his last set of points. And also the big story from tonight's game is Andre Vasilevsky. He is finally back after struggling in recent weeks. He comes back, dominates, looks like vintage Vazzy in net. Hopefully the Lightning could carry this over into their weekend games against Nashville Predators and the Florida Panthers as they make their move towards the playoffs.
The Wild continue one of their most successful seasons so far, taking down the Canucks on Thursday night. Locked On Wild indulges his Taylor Swift obsession while recapping the win.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22 as Kevin Fiala continues to score. Hey, everybody. Seth Topal, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 6-3 win for the Minnesota Wild over the Vancouver Canucks and a season sweep, brooms, of the Vancouver Canucks. The Wild led early thanks to number 22, Kevin Fiala. They ended up falling behind, but got the game tied heading into the third when number 22, Kevin Fiala, scored again to give the Wild a 4-3 lead. They added a Kirill Kaprizov goal and then a Ryan Hartman goal as well to pick up the win to tie the franchise record for wins in a single season with 49 and to, for the moment, pull ahead of St. Louis for the 2 seed in the Western Conference. The Wilds battled a team that desperately needed points in this game, and despite some huge fight from Vancouver, the Wild were able to outlast them, pick up 2 points of their own, 2 points in the win, 2 goals for number 22. All twos, all the time. And for more on the Minnesota Wild, you can follow Locked On Wild wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Sharks lost to the Blues last night after St. Louis shut down the San Jose offense. Locked On Sharks gives you the reasons why San Jose couldn't find a rhythm against St. Louis.
The Sharks unable to figure out the Blues. I'm JD Young of Locked On Sharks. The Sharks fall 3-1 to the St. Louis Blues. The offense just couldn't really get anything going tonight. Noah Gregor scored on a really nice goal the first period, and then that was basically it for the Sharks. The Blues, yeoman's work. They basically just kind of got up and then kept the puck away from the Sharks for most of this game. So Sharks just couldn't get sustained pressure, especially in the second period. And then it wasn't until the third period when they were down 2-1 that they really got anything going offensively, but it was just too little, too late. And James Reimer looked pretty spectacular tonight as usual, making 25 saves on 27 shots. But I mean, the Blues power play was the difference, going 1 for 5, while the Sharks only had one power play opportunity. So we'll break down tonight's game, talk about some of the prospects who won awards in the CHL, and more on tomorrow's Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts.
That's all for today on Locked On Now NHL. Thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you check out Locked On NHL and your team's Locked On podcast as the playoffs approach. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Now.